Today I'm going to introduce you to the world's worst dust collection system. I'm talking about my dust collection system. Okay, I know I'm guilty of hyperbole here. I haven't really traveled across the world to compare my dust collection system to everybody else's, but I can tell you it's not much of a dust collection system. I just thought I'd share you what I've got because I know that there's a lot of hobbyists and small shops out there that are probably in the same position I am with very little in the way of dust collection. So I thought if I shared what I did, maybe you could pick up some tips that would help you. I'm also going to share some of the things I've learned about dust collection lately. For a long time, it just seemed so confusing. There's a lot to know. It seemed expensive, and I just didn't really know what to do. But I've learned a lot, and I want to share some of that with you in case that could be helpful. And then finally, I want to tell you what I'm going to do next to upgrade my dust collection. So stick around. It's going to be fun. My name is James, and you have found Homestyle Woodcrafts. So the first thing to know about my lack of a dust collection system is that I have no active dust collection, meaning there's nothing in my shop that like sucks dust in. So when I use tools like my scroll saw or my band saw, or tools like my router table or sanders or my circular saw, or router, or the compound miter saw, or jigsaw, or whatever, I usually open my garage door and get to work. Meaning I'll either move the tool outside where there's plenty of airflow, or I'll move it close to the door if it's raining or snowing or whatever is going on outside and I can't work outside. I'll work as close to the door as possible. Some of my tools come with their own little mini dust collection, like my compound miter saw here. It has this little bag that attaches on the back, and it does collect some sawdust because there's sawdust in this bag, but a lot gets through too. It's not really that effective. In fact, when you hit it, you see that sawdust come out of there. In addition to not really getting the finest particles, another problem is these little cloth dust bags just wear out. You can see this on my railway belt sander bag here, this hole here, and it's worn here. What this is really good for is shooting the dust directly into my face when I turn it on. You can see here on my Porter Cable random orbital sander that it has a little canister on it. That's nice because dust doesn't leak through. What isn't nice is that it just falls off a lot of the times. And in fact, it's hard to tell with the dust and it's black, but I have taped it on here. A lot better than nothing for sure, because it does collect dust and little particles don't get out of it. But still some challenges, and a lot of dust just escapes right here by the sanding pad. That's what I do for my smaller tools. Now, as far as bigger tools that produce a lot more sawdust or chips, like a joint or a planer, I don't have those yet. Someday, I hope. Nancy, I hope you're listening. But I do have a table saw, which can produce, of course, a lot of sawdust. I don't have any kind of active dust collection for my table saw, but I have done a couple of kind of passive things that I'll show you now. Now we're going to kind of climb under my table saw here, and you will see this box. Yes, it is a box, and it collects sawdust as it falls down out of the table saw. And sometimes I dump other sawdust in there too. This is an underneath view of the table saw, and you can see that I've attached a hose to the dust shroud. That's a 4-inch hose, and I just had it left over from my dryer. It's a dryer vent hose. The hose goes into this bucket here. I cut a hole in the top and just fed the hose into that bucket. It's purely gravity fed. Occasionally I'll tap the corners of the hose to get the dust to move along, so it'll drop down into the bucket. Now you'll notice that there's this fluorescent yellow string tied to the handle. My saw is on a mobile base. While the box just kind of gets dragged around when I move the table, I actually lift up the bucket and attach it up here to that little hook, right there. That way I can move it around. I also have this little shop vac here that I've used to vacuum tools off. And it also has a blower too, so I can blow sawdust. I don't use it a lot though. I also have this blower. Occasionally I'll start toward the back end of my shop and move my way forward and blow a lot of dust out. It also blows a lot of dust into the air, so I don't know, but it does move a lot of stuff out the garage door. And of course, don't forget the trusty broom. You know, it's basic, it's simple, there's nothing special about it, but it does get dust out of the shop. And I can afford it. Now I want to show you what I think is the most important element of dust management in your shop. There are two main reasons I want to manage the dust in my shop. The first one is safety, my health. I want to protect my lungs. And the second is managing the mess. As you know, sawdust gets everywhere, and it makes a blanket of sawdust over everything. But of those two reasons, for me, the most important is my health and safety. And so the most important aspect of everything I've shown you today is this, and that is I wear a respirator when I'm working with wood. And that is because no matter what else is going on with the sawdust, I know that when it comes close to me, I can keep it out of my lungs with a respirator. Okay, that's my dust collection system. You'll have to let me know if you think I really do have the world's worst dust collection system. Leave those comments below. Like I said at the beginning of the video, I want to share with you some things I've learned about dust collection. I want to shift the idea of dust collection to a broader idea of dust management. For myself, I've identified 5 areas of dust management to consider. And I want to share those with you in the hopes that you can take away some good ideas to take a next positive step in your dust management system. So let's go. So the first area of dust management I want to talk about is dust safety. And I'm talking about protecting your lungs. So the way to do that is something I do, and I hope you're doing too, and that is using a respirator. For example, this is not just a dust mask, it's a respirator, and they have different ratings for safety with working with dust. So find one that will protect you against the kind of dust that's generated in woodworking. This is the kind I've been using for a long time, and it's been what I would say good. There are some limitations. One is that I don't think it doesn't have a great seal around my nose, and I know that because in the winter it gets foggy, and I figure if air's coming out, then there can be some dust coming in. Also, as they wear out, they get kind of fuzzy on the inside, and sometimes that ends up in my throat. I feel like, you know, like hairball kind of a thing. Another option is a more permanent solution, and like this respirator. This respirator, you buy the filters and you install it in. But what I love about this respirator is how it fits around my nose. It gives me a good tight seal. I don't know if you can hear that. It gives me a good tight seal around my nose. It doesn't escape. It doesn't fog up my glasses. That's really nice. I am kind of getting used to wearing glasses with this, but I'm figuring that out. So, dust safety, wear a respirator. Either get one of these, or if you can, get a more permanent solution. You'll want to make sure it has a good seal so that dust can't come in. So the second element in how I think of dust management is the actual dust collection. And what I mean by dust collection is the active collection of the dust at the source it's being produced, meaning at the tool. And so one of the most common ones you'll see is using a shop vac to collect the dust. Now you can hook up a shop vac directly to your tool and collect dust that way. The problem is it will rapidly overwhelm the filter and clog it up, and you'll have to replace the filter more often. Another option you can do is to create a 2-stage system where you buy these cyclonic tools that fit on a 5-gallon bucket, and that captures a lot of the dust before it gets to your shop vac. And that's a very popular option. Another similar option is the use of what's called a dust extractor. And unlike the shop vac, which is a sort of a general purpose tool, the dust extractor is a specific tool made for collecting sawdust. And it will be a little quieter, and it will have better filtration. Now, I don't own one of those and I've never seen one, but that's what I understand. But those are multiple times more expensive than shop vacs. The shop vac option is one that will be in a financial range that a lot of us can afford. Another option for dust collection is a big dust collector. And these have a larger motor and they move higher volumes of air to collect more dust. With the shop vac option, it's more likely to be used with smaller tools, like maybe your router table, or your miter saw, or your bandsaw, or your scroll saw, etc. The big dust collectors will more likely be used with like a planer, with a jointer, with a table saw, etc. Now, if you want to look up more information on these for the shop vac, just look up shop vac dust collection, look up cyclone dust collection. Now there's cyclone dust collection for the larger dust collection systems, but you'll be able to tell the difference by the size. And then for the big dust collectors, just look up big dust collection and that will get you there. The third element for workshop dust management is air filtration. And I've seen this done in kind of two ways. First way to filter some of the air in your workshop is sort of a do-it-yourself or DIY air filtration. And what I've seen people do is take a box fan and attach an air conditioner filter to it, so that as it draws air through, it filters out the dust particles. And I've seen everything from literally just taping it onto the back of the box fan to a more built out sort of wooden box that the fan fits in and the filter fits in, and some are pretty neat. And you can find those on YouTube. And the other option is an actual air filtration system, and you can buy these at various price points, but they look like a big box. They have a filter in them and they hang from the ceiling of your shop, and they circulate air through it and filter out the dust. And so you've got kind of a cheaper option and a more expensive option, and I hear they both work pretty good. For the DIY version, search it out on YouTube. Look for like box fan air filtration or DIY air filtration. If you want to see what the air filtration systems look like, just Google something like workshop air filtration and you'll find it. All right, now we're ready for the fourth element in dust management for your workshop. And this one is dust barriers. And this is pretty simple. So if you're in a space like I am, where part of the space is a workshop and part of it is not, so in my case, it's the garage where Nancy parks the car and we store other stuff, then having dust barriers can really help control how far and wide the dust spreads. So as you can see, I've hung this tarp up, and that's all you need to do. Is you can use tarps, or you can use kind of a like plastic sheeting to kind of cordon off the area where you're going to be creating dust, so that it doesn't move as far in the enclosed space. Fifth element is just shop cleanup, which is a broom like I've got here. It could be a blower like I showed you before. Some of the more advanced systems with the big shop dust collectors have an attachment where you can sweep things to an opening and it will suck up the dust. I hope that talking through these 5 areas of not just dust collection, but as part of a larger dust management strategy has been helpful to you and maybe given you some ideas. I hope it has. The idea is that all of these things will help. And so do the ones that resonate with you or that you can afford or seem to fit within your shop plan or whatever. But you can take different elements to improve your dust management in your shop. It was really helpful to me over time to look at YouTube videos. I'm going to put links to 3 videos down in the description that I found really helpful, and maybe you will too. And now I'm going to show you the next steps I'm going to take to improve dust management in my shop. What I've done is I've picked myself up a new shop vac, and I got one of those Cyclone 5-gallon bucket toppers to create a 2-stage system. I think this is sort of a pretty typical progression to go from not much to this. Then I'm hoping someday to get one of those big dust collection tools. What I'm really hoping for is that having better dust management and dust collection in my shop will allow me to use my shop more effectively. Here's what I mean. So right now I move everything up to the garage door and use it outside or near the garage door, which limits how I can use my space in my shop. So I'm really hoping to, over time, really improve my dust management. So as I get this set up and figured out, I'll do another video and show you how it's going. Today's watch party snack recommendation is pulled pork sliders. So get a bunch of those, sit down with your friends, and watch as many videos as you can stand. On my channel, of course. This video up here, that's one of my favorites. I recommend you watch that. And I recommend you watch it with your buddies.
Home style woodcraft.